When it comes to looking younger than their actual age, most people think of familiar reasons: genetics, good skincare, or simply luck. That sounds reasonable enough. But is looking younger than one's age truly just a matter of physical appearance? The reality is that there are people who do not invest much in their looks, nor do they live in easier conditions than others. Yet, over time, they maintain a spirit and youthfulness as if time moves more slowly for them. This often does not stem from the surface, but from the way they think, react, and choose to live each day. Conversely, there are those who, despite being young in years, appear weary and listless. It is not because they do not care for themselves, but because silent factors are eroding them over time. And that is what we will discuss today. Not appearance-related tips, but the deeper reasons why some people look younger than their actual age. Secret 1. Letting go of the past. If you look older than your actual age, it is likely not because time is moving faster for you, but because you are still living with things that have already ended. Some stories passed long ago, yet your mind returns to them every day, replaying them, reanalyzing them, and unconsciously carrying them into the present. It is this silent repetition that truly wears a person down. The past itself does not cause harm. What causes harm is allowing the past to continue defining us. When you constantly live in things that cannot be changed, your nervous system never truly rests. Stress accumulates, energy is drained, and that exhaustion, sooner or later, shows clearly on your face. You can see this very clearly in people who always have to explain who they are through old stories. They don't need to speak of their pain, their bodies speak for them. Conversely, those who look younger than their age do not necessarily forget the past faster, but they know when to set it down. No denial, no rejection, just no longer carrying it. Letting go of the past is not about forgetting what happened. It is the decision to stop living in an expired version of yourself. When you stop using yesterday to dictate today, your body begins to feel lighter. Your aura softens. Your gaze is no longer strained. You do not grow younger by letting go of the past. You simply stop letting it age you. Remember, you do not grow old because of what happened. You grow old because you are still living in it. Secret 2. Don't suppress your emotions. There is a type of strength that wears people down very quickly, always pretending to be fine. You learn to stay silent, suppress your emotions, and tell yourself that it's okay or I'm fine. On the surface, you still work, still communicate, and still control everything. But your body does not forget. It remembers every time you swallowed your anger, ignored a sadness, or pretended not to be hurt. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They merely change locations, from the mind to the body. When you keep everything inside for too long, the nervous system is forced to carry the burden. Your breath shortens, facial muscles tighten, reflexes become hypersensitive. Over time, these signs are no longer temporary states. They become your permanent aura. Many people do not realize this because they do not explode. They don't get irritable, they don't break down, and they don't collapse overtly. But it is that prolonged silence that erodes life energy most slowly and deeply. The body must constantly keep everything under control, and the price paid is a silent exhaustion. People who look younger than their age do not necessarily have fewer emotions than others. They look younger because they do not use their bodies as a storage space for unreleased emotions. They allow themselves to be sad when they are sad, and annoyed when they are annoyed. Then they let the emotion pass, instead of locking it away and carrying it with them. Over time, the difference becomes very clear. One side is a body always in a state of tension and restraint. The other is a body that is relaxed at the right time. And that is why unprocessed emotions often leave a clear imprint on the eyes and the face. If you want to look younger than your age, do not try to learn how to be fine all the time. Let your emotions pass through before your body has to pay the price for you. Secret 3. Building an unbreakable spirit. People who look younger than their age do not necessarily have a lighter life. They also face pressure, failure, and periods of instability just like anyone else. The difference lies in this: those things do not break them from within. Most people age rapidly, not because of time, but because of prolonged, unreleased stress. Pressure repeats every day. Tension has no outlet. When the inner self lacks an axis, the body is forced to live in a state of constant defense. The nervous system is always on high alert. Energy is consumed just to maintain minimal stability. If this state lasts long enough, exhaustion will leave its mark on the gaze, the posture, and the aura. The Stoics see this very clearly. Humans do not collapse because of one major event, but because of hundreds of small, uncontrolled reactions. When you allow circumstances to dictate your internal state every day, stress does not need to explode. Gradually, that tension becomes a familiar background state, and the face begins to carry it. People with resilient spirits are not necessarily tougher than others. They differ in that they do not let circumstances determine their internal state. When life is unstable, they maintain inner stability. Not by avoiding problems, but by not letting those problems drag them too far away. Over time, that stability preserves life energy. The gaze becomes less strained. The rhythm of life is steadier. The body does not have to constantly defend itself. And it is precisely this that allows them to maintain a youthful appearance even when life is far from easy. If you want to look younger than your age, do not wish for life to be less difficult. Build an unbreakable spirit so that stress has no place to carve its mark on you. Secret 4. Embracing change without resistance. Most people fear change, even if they don't always admit it. It is not necessarily because change is always bad, but because it forces us to leave what is familiar, a job we know, a place we are attached to, a rhythm of life that is tiring but safe. Therefore, many choose to stay, not because it is a good fit, but because they are afraid of starting over. The problem is that life does not stand still. When everything has shifted, but you still try to remain the same, your body is forced to brace itself to adapt. You don't realize it immediately. You just find yourself more tense than before. Gradually, that state of bracing becomes the default, and you grow accustomed to living in a smoldering state of stress. Resisting change is a form of prolonged stress. It is not loud or violent, but persistent. Every day you try to hold on to something that no longer fits. Your nervous system has to work harder to maintain a false sense of stability. And the price to pay is the erosion of your life energy, bit by bit. People who look younger than their age do not necessarily avoid change. They look younger because they do not stay too long in the expired rhythms of life. When they realize a job, a relationship, or a way of living is no longer suitable, they adjust sooner. No noise, no clinging, just an acceptance that they have changed. Change itself does not age a person. What exhausts a person is the attempt to hold on to a version that is no longer appropriate. When you allow yourself to move at the right time, the body stops bracing itself against what has already changed. The pace of life slows down naturally. Your aura softens, and that relief, over time, becomes very clear. If you want to look younger than your age, do not try to find ways to keep everything still. Ask yourself, What in this life am I holding on to only because I fear change? Secret 5. Keep your mind curious and open. Some people do not look older because of age, but because the way they view the world has stopped moving. They are no longer curious about different perspectives, no longer interested in new things. Their minds have quietly and gradually closed off. When the mind closes, everything begins to stiffen. You listen to argue, not to understand. You look to judge, not to observe. Flexibility is lost so slowly that you do not even realize it. But the body feels it clearly. The rhythm of life becomes heavier, reflexes slower, and mental energy gradually diminishes. People who look younger than their age are not necessarily those who know more. They look younger because they do not assume they know enough. They keep their minds in an open state, ready to relearn, ready to adjust, and ready to change their perspective when necessary. It is that very flexibility that helps them adapt better to a constantly fluctuating life. As long as the mind remains curious, the brain maintains its plasticity. You are not trapped in old conclusions. You do not react mechanically to people and circumstances. And when the mind is not stuck, the body does not have to brace itself to keep up. Over time, the difference becomes very clear. One side is a person living in repetitive patterns. The other is a person who still possesses vitality in their outlook and lifestyle. And it is that vitality that keeps them looking younger, even as the years pass. The Stoics do not consider knowing much to be a strength. They value the ability to keep the mind in motion, because when the mind stands still, that is when a person begins to age. Secret 6. Living with passion and purpose. How long has it been since you woke up each morning without truly knowing what you were striving for? You still go to work, still fulfill your responsibilities, still do exactly what needs to be done, but deep inside, there is no sense of where you are heading. When you live this way for too long, energy doesn't vanish instantly. It drains away bit by bit. The gaze reveals a clear weariness. The rhythm of life becomes hurried. Tasks that once held meaning are now merely obligations to be completed. When you know where you are heading, the pace of life becomes less frantic. You no longer feel the need to try to do everything. You focus only on what is truly necessary. Things that are no longer important gradually fall away from your life. You don't need to go fast. You only need to go in the right direction and stay true to the path you have chosen. Passion is not always an intense emotion. Sometimes it is simply an activity that makes you feel truly alive rather than just repeating a cycle. Purpose doesn't need to be grand either. It only needs to be real enough so that you don't have to drag yourself through each day. And here is a truth few realize. When a person lives with something to look forward to, energy no longer leaks away every day. They are more present in every action, every conversation. Their aura becomes fresher, their eyes brighter, a natural energy that others can feel when they are near. That is why they appear much more youthful. Secret 7. Choose your environment wisely. Those who look younger than their age don't just take care of themselves, they actively choose the environments they inhabit. You may possess great discipline, effort, and self-control, but if you must live every day in an environment that keeps you stressed, defensive, or constantly struggling to adapt, your body and mind will soon pay the price. It is not because you are weak, but because you have stayed in the wrong place for too long. The environment does more than just impact your emotions. It dictates your breathing, your reflexes, the way you think, and the amount of energy you carry into each day. In the wrong environment, you must burn energy simply to survive, and that cost becomes clearly visible on your face over time. Living in such an environment is like breathing polluted air every day. You might not see the consequences immediately, but the body feels them deeply. It remembers that stress, accumulating it gradually over time. Those who look younger than their age generally do not stay long in environments that force them to shrink. They do not try to change others, nor do they use their strength to prove they are tough enough. When they realize a place forces them to strain every day, they leave and choose environments that allow them to breathe more steadily, live more rhythmically, and grow naturally. The reality is clear. You cannot maintain a youthful appearance for long if you must live in a defensive state every day. You do not grow old because of time. You grow old because you stay too long in an environment that forces you to strain just to exist. Looking younger than your age does not come from what you hold on to. It comes from gradually stopping carrying the things that are silently aging you every day. Unreleased stress, suppressed emotions, and lifestyles that no longer suit you. The 7 things you have just gone through are not beauty tips, nor are they formulas to fight time. 7 very quiet, very ordinary choices determine how time leaves its mark on you. Some people pass through the years with a sense of serenity. Some look younger than their actual age, despite life not being easy. And some age very quickly, not because of time, but because they have had to strain for too long just to survive. When you live more lightly on the inside, the body no longer has to pay the price for the mind. And in that state, youthfulness requires no effort. It appears naturally. If one of these 7 things made you stop and think, it might not be a coincidence. Leave a comment sharing what touched you the most. Sometimes, naming a thought is the first step toward living differently. If you want to continue this journey, stay with Stoic Journey. A like, a subscription, or simply returning for the next video. These are all ways for us to continue walking together and growing together every day. Thank you for spending your time here. See you on the next journey.